Krishna devotees. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradare Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachare Yamuna Tiravanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradare Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanang Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtapraishu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Good morning, dear devotees. We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, The Science of God, Chapter 8. Lord Nrsingadev slays the king of the demons. Indeed, the Lord has appeared and he is wreaking havoc, havoc out of love to protect his dear devotee and son, Prahlad. Shri Siddha Uchuhu Yono Gatim Yoga Siddham Asut. Okay. Sorry, I need to figure out this meter. Yono gatim yoga siddham asadhur aharshid yoga tapo balena nanadarpam tam nakar vidadara tasmai tubhyam pranatasmo nrsimha Shri Siddha Uchuhu Yono gatim yoga siddham asadhur Aharshid yoga tapobalena nanadarpam tang nakar vidadara tasmai tubhyam pranatas smon singha. Would anyone like to try to read the verse?
Shri Siddha Uchuhu Yono Gatim Yoga Siddham Asadhur Aharshid Yoga Tapobalena Nanadapantam Nakar Vidhadhara Tasmai Tubhyam Pradatasmo Nasimha.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Shri Sada Uchu Yono Gatim Yoga Sitam Asatur Aharshid Yoga Tapo Balena Nanadarpam Tam Nakar Vitadhara Tasmai Tubhyam Pranata Smam Nishingha.
Thank you, Prabhu. Would anyone else try to read the verse? Sri Siddha Uchuhu. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka said, Yaha, the person who, Naha, our, Gatim, perfection, Yoga Siddham, achieved by mystic yoga, Saduhu, most uncivilized and dishonest, Aharshid, stole away, Yoga of mysticism, Tapaha, and austerities, Balena, by the power, Nanadarpam, proud due to wealth, opulence and strength, Tam, him, Nakahi, by the nails, Vidadara, pierced, Tasmai, unto him, Tubhyam, unto you, Pranataha, bowed down, Smaha, we are, Nrsimha, O Lord Nrsimhadev. Translation. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka prayed, O Lord Nrsimhadev, because we belong to Siddhaloka, we automatically achieve perfection in all 8 kinds of mystic power. Yet, Hiranyakashipu was so dishonest that by the strength of his power and austerity, he took away our powers. Thus, he became very proud of his mystic strength. Now, because this rogue has been killed by your nails, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. On earth, there are many yogis who can exhibit some feeble mystic power by manufacturing pieces of gold like magic. But the inhabitants of the planet Siddhaloka are actually extremely powerful in mysticism. They can fly from one planet to another without airplanes. This is called Laghima Siddhi. They can actually become very light and fly in the sky. By a severe type of austerity, however, Hiranyakashipu excelled all the inhabitants of Siddhaloka and create disturbances for them. The residents of Siddhaloka were also beaten by the powers of Hiranyakashipu. Now that Hiranyakashipu had been killed by the Lord, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka also felt relieved. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Siddha Uchuhu Yono Gatim Yoga Siddham Asud Asadhur Aharshit Yoga Tapobalena Nana Darpang Tam Nakarvi Dadara Tasmai Tubhyam Pranata Smoon Singha. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka prayed, O Lord Nrsingadev, because we belong to Siddhaloka, we automatically achieve perfection in all 8 kinds of mystic power. Yet Hiranyakashipu was so dishonest that by the strength of his power and austerity, he took away our powers. Thus he became very proud of his mystic strength. Now, because this rogue has been killed by your nails, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So in these prayers that inhabitants of the various planets have assembled, they had assembled for this great fight, and they have come to actually witness the killing of this great demoniac emperor Hiranyakashipu, and they're offering their personal testimony, how they were actually affected. And so just like even we have on this Earth planet, we have a court, an international court for crimes against humanity. And so in their personal testimony, these different higher beings of higher planets, they giving their testimony. And Lord Nrsingadev he has the agency of the Supersoul. So he knew exactly what the kind of terrorism that Hiranyakashipu had inflicted. But still, this is devotional service. Vandanam is a limb of devotional service to actually offer prayers. So even though the Lord knows of the sadhaka's plight, still to actually offer those feelings. The Lord wants to assure you that everything is actually going to be okay. It gives the Lord that opportunity that when the sadhaka is actually offering prayers, then the Lord can actually reciprocate. And so here the siddhas, the mystics of Siddhaloka, they feelingly offering their gratitude to the Lord that this great demon was so powerful that he had created subversion. He had subverted the rules of achieving power in the universe. So here Prabhupada, he explains in the purport that um, while there's yogis who can exhibit a small amount of mystic power, it's tiny in comparison to when you actually achieve the real perfection. And the real perfection of yoga is these Ashta Siddhis, or the 8 mystic powers. So Krishna in the 11th canto, chapter 15, he describes to Uddhava the mystic perfections. And they're quite incredible. So let's see. Let's just do a brief recap of what they are. Okay. Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the masters of the yoga system have declared that there are 18 types of mystic perfection and meditation, of which 8 are primary, having their shelter in me, and 10 are secondary, appearing from the material mode of goodness. So the appearance of So the Lord is Yogeshwara, right? The master of all mystic power. So he's the source of the master of mystic power. And here, the Siddhas, in their statement, now, because this rogue has been killed by your nails, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So Nrsingadev's nails are a manifestation of his mystic power. How is that? Well, Hiranyakashipu had asked for the benediction not to be killed by any weapon. And the nails aren't a weapon. Yeah. And so, in other words, the Siddhas are saying to Nrsingadev that only you could have figured out a way to actually kill him. So even though you have given us shelter in this loka, Siddha loka, and we actually have these eight mystic powers. While we had them, we couldn't figure out how to kill him. Lord Brahma, he is most perfect, right? In being Adikavi, he's most perfect in these mystic powers. He gave the benedictions. So how could we actually go against Lord Brahma's declaration that he actually can't be killed by weapons? And so much so great was um, Hiranyakashipu in order to even further create insurance for himself, he actually took away the mystic power, right? So there is a system, just like the US military. It's a bit like if you took away the internet of the military. And so all the weapon systems in the US military, they connected. They have their own, private network, and um, they all are communicating via the via satellites, very extensive, right? To hack into a network of the military, yeah, it's practically impossible, very difficult. So so there's a system on how these weapons are all controlled, right? If you look at how weapon systems were orchestrated 5,000 years ago, they weren't centralized through the Akash, right? So if you have a powerful warrior who has like the celestial weapons, he can actually with an Akashic weapon, he can actually defeat the entire military. So the point I'm trying to make is that's its main weakness, is that it just depends on one element and it's like all central. And so if they can't communicate, then the troops have to go on the ground. Um, then it's just like shortwave radio, and it's just hand-to-hand combat. So some people may look at how warfare was waged 5,000 years ago as being primitive, but actually it's it's each Maharati um, could issue their own nuclear weapons. They could retract them. So the whole military was hinged on a general, and these generals had all the weapons at their disposal that they needed. And so it depended on you killing them. And there's no question of killing them with a bullet, um, or any other weapon um, that was controlled via Wi-Fi or via the internet or something like that. They could easily defeat it. In fact, they can actually even create a simulated environment through Akashic weapons, like um, make it seem like there's mountains or snakes or rocks falling from the sky. And the adversary, it feels real. It feels like, yeah, so there's blood, pus, all these things falling from the sky. And the person becomes actually so fearful that they give up the fight. So they lose morale. And so when their morale drops, their guard drops. And just like even in boxing, if you drop your hands, immediately you're finished. Yeah. So even like with Lord Shiva's, I think is the Pashu weapon. Um, well, I forget the name, but there's one weapon that when Krishna was rescuing Aniruddha and from the kingdom of Banasur, and he was actually fighting against Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva released his Pashu weapon. Um, very powerful, and Lord Krishna also released another one to counteract it. But the way he defeated Lord Shiva was with the yawning weapon. So he basically put Lord Shiva to sleep. So Lord Shiva, he can't be killed. He's eternal. But he got neutralized by Lord Krishna with this weapon. And Lord Shiva, he just couldn't stop yawning, and then he just had to leave the battlefield. And so when a great general leaves, then there's no more coordination, no orchestration. Um, but with the other weapons that we have, say if the command center was from an aircraft carrier, um, yeah, you just take out the radio tower on top of the carrier and it can't communicate. And so even though it's like the shelter for the aircraft carriers, for the submarines, it coordinates that. Once you take out the communication, then there's no more orchestration. Um, so yeah, that's just a long-winded way just to describe that Yogeshwara, the Lord, he is the master of mystic power, and the Siddhas, um, the system he had put in place for warrior kings and kshatriyas that they have been following for generations before this Kali Yuga is a perfect system of of military conquest. But the Siddhas are saying here that, yeah, we couldn't figure it out, but you actually figured it out, my lord. With your nails, you actually destroyed this person. So, and you restored our ability to actually get power. So it's like, with us, we are very dependent on Wi-Fi. And if the water gets shut off, no, we'll be fine. If the electricity gets shut off, okay, at least we have gas stove and you can like continue cooking. But if Wi-Fi gets shut off, it's a big, big problem. So I remember, I think um, it was there was a big outage on the internet. I think it was in around October or November. So 85% of the websites are served by a DNS, a domain name server, a provider called Cloudflare. And so the traffic runs through, their server. And they had an issue. And so for several hours, just websites weren't working. Yeah. So that was a big mess, a big deal. So we are very dependent on Wi-Fi. And and so that's a system of how we get power, right? That's a system on this planet. So we have, even though we don't have remote viewing, we don't have, we're not born with the, ability to communicate remotely. But we have the public internet. And so that's the system of how we just automatically gain some power on this planet. So in the same way, we can see that we can consider that even on Siddha Loka as well, the types of bodies that yeah, when you actually take birth on Siddhaloka, there is a system on how each body actually has these 8 mystic yoga perfections. But Hiranyakashipu, he took it over. Yeah. So So it's not difficult to conceive, but depending on how demoniac you are, you can actually figure it out. Just like, for example, with Kamsa, um, in order to secure, yeah, his insurance plan was that he was going to stop all the brahmanas performing Vedic sacrifices, kill all the babies that had been killed, that had been born in the last 10 days. So perform all these various atrocities. And in fact, what it was a siege by the demons, right? So after the battle at the Milk Ocean, the demons were thoroughly defeated by the demigods. And so they regrouped, right? And part of the regrouping was they chose the Earth planet to take shelter in, and they're like, okay, we'll take birth in the royal families. Some of us will appear as animals, and we will secure an advantage by the important thing was taking birth as lower animals is that animals, they're not subject to karma. So they were like, um, it's perfectly permissible for us to actually go and kill sages who are meditating in the forest. If they can't protect themselves, that's their problem. But if you don't have mystic power to protect yourself while living in the forest, then it means this isn't the place for you, right? So they took advantage of that loophole, and they actually went on a killing spree, and they were killing the sages. And so there was less sages, and they also went about taking birth in the family of royal families. And Jarasandha famously, he took shelter in Chedi, the Chedi dynasty. His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj, in his book, The Great Bharat, it's a great read. You should read it. And it's like a precursor on just explaining some of before Mahabharat. So basically, Mahabharat begins with the crisis in the Kuru dynasty um, uh, that Vichitravirya has died and there's no heir to the Kuru throne. So that's where it begins. But how Satyavati became Satyavati, her family line, how Jarasandha actually appeared as well. He was Viprachiti in his previous lifetime. Um, he took birth in that dynasty. Kamsa, he was Kalanemi. He was killed by Lord Vishnu. And they just employed different tactics on how to actually subvert uh, how dynasties, particularly the Kuru dynasty, how they maintained law and order on the Earth planet. So this is the point I'm trying to make is that demons, they're very clever and they can figure it out. Um, like on this planet, one theory that's also taking place is that uh, there is basically mothers, young ladies are being dissuaded from giving birth. So one marker in Western civilization is that it's actually in decline because the birth rate is less than replacement. So people are having less than two kids. If you take the statistics of yeah, of advanced, economically advanced countries. Mm. And there's different ways on how they actually, these very demoniac administrators, there's different ways on how they actually doing this. Yeah. So anyway, long story short is that Hiranyakashipu figured out how mystic power is actually naturally given to people who take birth on Siddha Loka, and he actually stopped it. Hmm. So, and that secured, that was one way in which he ensured, okay, I am conquering these planets. the higher planets, the planets of the demigods, I am maintaining my hold on it because I have undisputed power. And so Siddha Loka, definitely they could figure out also that, okay, this Hiranyakashipu, he got absolute dominion over the entire universe by mystic power. So one of us, yes, to counteract it, let us also perform those same austerities. So to prevent this from happening, he took it away. Mm. And so it was quite extraordinary that he was actually able to do this, but he did it. And so the Siddhas are thanking Lord Nrsingadev for restoring the natural order of things on their planetary system. Okay. So Krishna as Yogeshwara, so continuing in the 11th canto, chapter 15, on the descriptions of the mystic powers. So Krishna, he says, among the 8 primary mystic perfections, the 3 by which one transforms one's own body are anima, becoming smaller than the smallest, mahima, becoming greater than the greatest, and lagima, becoming lighter than the lightest. Through the perfection of prapti, one acquires whatever one desires, and through prakamya siddhi, one experiences any enjoyable object, either in this world or the next. Through ishita siddhi, one can manipulate the sub-potencies of maya, and through the controlling potency called vashita siddhi, one is unimpeded by the 3 modes of nature. One who has acquired kamavashayita siddhi can obtain anything from anywhere to the highest possible limit. My dear gentle Uddhava, these 8 mystic perfections are considered to be naturally existing and unexcelled within this world. So this was the state of the Siddhas, that they were born with these abilities. So this Kamavashayita Siddhi, Lord Brahma, he has it, and it allows you to actually rule a universe. So you can do anything. You can control, you can construct planetary systems, so in the description of the universe, the planetary systems of this universe in the 5th canto, there's 14 of them, and they're arranged in a dolphin shape or a Shishumara, and they're rotating on an axis. I mean, this is incredible. This is artistry. And to consider that one person actually did that. And he was getting his power from the source of all mystic power. Yeah. So this was Lord Brahma who actually did this. And then his descendant, who so when there was also another crisis in the universe where there was no emperor to actually rule, then the son of Swayambhuva Manu, his name was slipping. Can anyone remind me again? So there's Uttanapad and Dhruva's uncle.
Priyavrata?
There we go.
No.
Maharaj Priyavrata. Yes, Maharaj Priyavrata, he became the emperor, and he was dissatisfied with the lighting in the universe. So it's described that his chariot, he basically expanded his chariot, and he followed the path of the sun so that the part of the universe that was in darkness was also being nicely lit. Yeah, so obviously you can read in between the lines how he did that through these 8 mystic perfections, but he had to expand himself, right? Uh, Mahima Siddhi, expand himself to actually have a chariot of that size, to actually redistribute the sun's rays. Mm. So this is Maharaj Priyavrata, who actually, yeah, achieved this. So these mystic powers are very incredible, and naturally, yes, Hiranyakashipu can't have an army that could potentially assemble on Siddhaloka of persons with these abilities naturally to then face him. Yeah, he couldn't have it, and so he figured out a way to actually so that they don't get these powers naturally. So Krishna, he explains that there are 10 other secondary mystic perfections. So here they are. The 10 secondary mystic perfections arising from the modes of nature are the powers of freeing oneself from hunger and thirst and other bodily disturbances, hearing and seeing things far away, moving the body at the speed of the mind, assuming any form one desires, entering the bodies of others, dying when one desires, witnessing the pastimes between the demigods and celestial girls called apsaras, completely executing one's determination, and giving orders whose fulfillment is unimpeded. So this sounds very familiar. This sounds like a devotee who is actually perfected devotional service, particularly one who is serving, like Prabhupada, serving as an acharya. So Prabhupada, we know he freed himself from hunger and thirst and other bodily disturbances. At the time when he was when he in Lilamrita is described, when the devotees got a physician to actually come and see how he's doing, and one physician who came was saying that they don't understand how Prabhupada is still alive. And Taraka Prabhu has told us on numerous occasions about this. And yeah, because the pain was so great. And yet Prabhupada, he exhibited another mystic power, completely executing one's determination. And that determination was to continue translating the Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada also, so hearing and seeing things far away, yeah, devotees, even people, this ability actually, all of us, we can cultivate it. A remote viewing, there's like courses that you can take. So it's not very difficult to actually get moving the body at the speed of the mind. Yeah, when you read in Krishna Lila, different mystic on the battlefield, yeah, different warriors are very quick and they can exhibit this power. Assuming any form one desires, the demons who try to kill Krishna, Kamarupa, who came to Vrindavan, they would exhibit this mystic power. Entering the bodies of others, dying when one desires, this is a core mystic perfection in yoga. Witnessing the pastimes between the demigods and the celestial girls called apsaras. So this kind of voyeurism, yes, so it's not recommended that you use this mystic power to, yeah, to do this. And so what the devotees do is they use this mystic power to witness the pastimes of the Lord. Some of them even participate. Even though their physical body is present, they can actually go to the spiritual world and witness and participate. And in the book, The Lives of the Vaishnava Saints, there's a description of I just forget. So Narottam Das Thakur, Shamananda Prabhu, and Srinivas Acharya. So they actually, yes, they had these episodes where they were kind of actually go to the spiritual world. So these descriptions are very nice, but the point here is that the devotees naturally develop these mystic powers. So just serving your Geshvara, these opulences become yours. You don't have to get them separately. And in this prayer that the Siddhas have offered to Lord Nrsingadev, they didn't have to form an army of mystics to actually go up against Hiranyakashipu. They couldn't. But their perfection was that once their powers were restored, they were grateful. That's their perfection. And so similarly today, we can meditate on this, is that the perfection, one of your perfections as a devotee is to maintain this attitude of gratitude, to actually see how after a great reversal in your life, to see other devotees hear about pastimes of devotees experiencing great trials, like this great trial that Prahlad Maharaj has experienced, is their perfection is that they're very grateful and they can see that, yes, the Lord, this is how you did it. This is how you helped me. And so to always see that and remember that or see it, then it becomes your asset because you're just meditating and like, yes, the Lord actually helped me this way. So the Siddhas, their perfection is their Vishnu Smaranam is the nails of Nrsingadev, the nails. They restored everything. Yeah. Yes. So the body of the Lord, Swayam Rupa, the two-handed form of Krishna is perfect. Um, and he's appeared in Spruce Hill as Sri Sri Radha Damodar. And we can meditate how the form of the Lord is actually helping us on a day-to-day basis. So every one of us, we have uh, an episode, a period in our life that is difficult. And we can just think, yes, the Lord helped me in this specific way. And that's your perfection. So let us use today to maintain this attitude of gratitude towards Sri Sri Radha Damodar and pray with this feeling as the Siddhas are praying to Lord Nrsingadev. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, reflections, or contentions?
Thanks, Nagari Krishna Prabhu. Nice summary of the mystic powers and their relevant applications and some of their reflections, even in the modern world where there's very little mystic power. It's interesting analysis. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Gari Prabhu.
Haribol.
Yeah, I appreciate like I'm at work. I'm trying to find different ways to introduce Krishna consciousness, and I found that I was describing like Kumbh Mela and like the mystic yogis, and that seemed to be like a good entry point. So I'm grateful because you're giving me more fuel along those same lines of like attracting people by this kind of like mysticism and stuff.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, this chapter 15 is great. How Krishna is really just breaking it down with different types of primary mystic powers, secondary mystic powers. It's very, very fascinating. And in this world where the epistemology, one of the foundations of the modern civilization after the Second World War, is that humans have so much technology that they don't need God, right? And so in the population, and this is part of our education system, this is part of the propaganda. And so, yes, people are very attracted to technology. Uh, they have so much faith in technology. Yeah, so it's a good way to actually, I'm glad you found a way to make Krishna consciousness, or at least have an entry point to actually bring them into the epistemology of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the epistemology is that all power has its source. Uh, the source is intelligent, it's a person, and it's ultimately the source of all power is Krishna. Yeah. So thank you, Prabhu. Any other contributions?
Thank you, Prabhu, for your great class. Very great insights.
Thank you, Mataji, for enriching our cohort here online in our online Srimad Bhagavatam class with you and your esteemed husband, Kalia Damana Prabhu. We appreciate you coming to our community. So for hopefully you can also join the roster. And I think Krishna Surya is gonna probably have like a 30-day rotation because there's just many devotees who can give classes. So I think you and your husband should be added to that rotation.
Great. I know my wife right now, so no. She's so humble. But that would be nice. Thank you. And thank you for welcoming us here. It's such a beautiful family. And we're very blessed being here. And I was thinking about your class on the mystics. We know Krishna is a source of master mystics. And we're afraid I don't touch upon the mysticism that's part of our path. And this, we just don't ask for it, Does that make sense? Because like I used to sit with Gorgamila Maharaj. Do you ever sit with Gorgamila Maharaj?
No.
Do you have association with him?
No, I only joined in 2009.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anybody that's ever sat with in his presence, this is mysticism. He was, Chaitya Guru realized it would say, he did amazing things, what he would do for devotees and bring out their nartas, and he just would pin people against the wall. People were afraid to sit in his class. All the brahmacharis would sit like 30, 40 feet away from him because he'd always pick on somebody. Anyway, the mysticism, thank you for touching upon that, we anyway, this is.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it was breaking up, but the gist of what I got was that just like the Siddhas, people born on Siddha Loka get mystic power. It's just their birthright. So even us, similarly as well, it's actually the birthright of devotees, and great devotees like His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj and other, even Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, devotees know as well. He had psi abilities, and he actually used them to actually help devotees. And so, yes, these great leaders and generals in Prabhupada's Sankirtan phalanx, which is part of the Sankirtan army. So the description that the prophecy of Prabhupada's appearance, that an army general will actually appear to actually spread the holy name around the world, is a very apt description of Prabhupada, because as I was describing, the way warfare was conducted 5,000 years ago was with generals with celestial weapons, and these celestial weapons were mystic. Yeah, so they had 10-second, these primary perfections and 10 secondary perfections, they had them. And we can see, and as you're describing, that legendary preachers in ISKCON, they actually use these abilities in Krishna, in spreading the holy name, in advancing Prabhupada's mission around the world, and even Prabhupada. So the devotees are very expert not to take away the focus and the attention on Yogeshwara. So they're always promoting, yes, chant the names of Yogeshwara Krishna, right? But they are using the power, and they are very connected, so they don't get bewildered. So in using these powers in Krishna service, they don't get bewildered. So, and they demonstrate that, yes, this is actually your birthright too. as a pure spirit soul in relation to Krishna, once you purify the heart, then you also become perfect like a Siddha. And these abilities just naturally manifest without a separate endeavor. Because here, Krishna, he explains here in this verse, okay, the power to know past, present, and future, tolerance of heat, cold, and other dualities, knowing the minds of others, checking the influence of fire, sun, water, poison, and so on, and remaining unconquered by others. These constitute 5 perfections of the mystic process of yoga and meditation. I'm simply listing these here according to their names and characteristics. Now, please learn from me how specific mystic perfections arise from specific meditations and also of the particular processes involved. So, there is a process for cultivating each and every single mystic power. But devotional service, it's so perfect that by worshiping Krishna, you don't have to engage in these processes. So just like with us in this modern world, in these times, we are bothered by just different mental disturbances, but you don't have to have a separate process. And, devotees who are who, who spent a considerable amount of time looking at the movements of the false ego, the intelligence, they have they synthesize how to actually do this. So it's like how if you just maintain your sadhana and then like you read the books that you can have different daily meditations on how to process trauma, how to process grief, but it's all hinged on sadhana. And so you don't have to have a separate endeavor. Oh, okay, I'm working on anger. I have a tendency to become defensive, so therefore I need a separate process. No, we have very intelligent devotees, and they've written books on this. But ultimately, it's the same message, is that you just chant Hare Krishna and perfect your life that way. So with knowledge and with the holy name, yes, these perfection can be had in a variety of ways. So thank you, Prabhu, for just putting that for us into focus, that we too are as perfect as the Siddhas, in that just by being in the association of devotees, being well situated in sadhana, various mystic perfections become our natural birthright just by staying alive in devotional service. Any other contributions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you for a nice class. That last point was the highlight of your class. It was interesting, but the bottom line is simply by devotional service, all perfection is automatically achieved with no separate endeavor. That's a wonderful thing. But it depends upon your consciousness. If somebody wants some sort of perfection for purposes of sense gratification, it becomes a diversion, a distraction from actual Krishna consciousness. Srila Rupa Goswami describes how a Vaishnava automatically, without separate endeavor, just by execution of devotional service, he achieves all the mystic perfections in full. He has them. He doesn't necessarily use them. He has no particular interest in them. He's only interested in devotional service. But he can use them if he sees practical application for them in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada, we can surmise that Srila Prabhupada had the mystic cities in full, but but there are also many accounts of Srila Prabhupada actually displaying such cities. I personally have witnessed such displays. But what I saw is that generally Srila Prabhupada made a policy of avoiding the display of mystic cities um, because when people see that, they become distracted. They find such powers to be very attractive. They want that for themselves, and so they're inclined to endeavor for some mystic city in order to enhance their sense gratification, and they miss the crucial point of Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada um, he always conducted himself in such a way as to encourage us in our Krishna consciousness, pure bhakti, with no element of sense gratification. And so he generally did not display mystic cities, but he did sometimes, um, particularly if he was in the company of individuals who had no desire for such cities, then he was comfortable to sometimes display them, confident that he would not be creating a diversion for that devotee. I could tell you some stories, but um, yeah, devotees, um, as one progresses in Krishna consciousness, um, desires for all kinds of sense gratification evaporate, and even the desire for extraordinary mystic power um, just goes away because the devotee realizes there's nothing better simply than to remember Krishna. Simply serving Krishna in any capacity is completely satisfying, and there's no need for anything else. The devotee becomes desireless in that way, that his only desire is devotional service. He has no desire for any kind of sense gratification, gross or subtle, has no desire for any special power, doesn't want to try to lord over the material nature or exploit the material nature in any kind of way at all. He just wants to engage everything in Krishna's service. And he feels that there is nothing better than that. And it's true, there is nothing better than that. So mystic cities are there. I have lots of experience of um, encounters with people that had various cities. Um, I once encountered an individual in the wilderness um, beside a stream on top of a mountain. This fellow caused a waterfall to flow backwards. Sounds incredible. I mean, it's pretty hard to believe that a waterfall could flow backwards, but I witnessed that. He made that happen. He stood in front of me and verbalized all of my thoughts without me opening my mouth. Whatever thought came into my head, he would speak it out loud to me. Extraordinary. But anyway, these things are going on. And you never know who you're dealing with. People who look like ordinary individuals, they may look like ordinary non-devotees, and sometimes they have some extraordinary city. I've experienced that. Srila Prabhupada has described this at the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad. You have all kinds of powerful yogis that show up. Srila Prabhupada told us stories about devotees who actually arrive on flying carpets they sit on a carpet and they cause the carpet to fly. There was a group of three in particular that Srila Prabhupada mentioned that used to fly into the Mela every year. And some of them arrive from distant locations, maybe somewhere in the Himalayas. They dip into the Ganga, and so their head goes down in one place, maybe somewhere around Gomukh, and then their head pops up in Allahabad. They transfer themselves through the water. Srila Prabhupada told us one day about how he himself was traveling on uh, beams of sunlight. And he just, he mentioned that he had been doing that, but he didn't express any particular interest in doing it. It was just, he just made this casual remark about how, he had just been doing that. So devotee has no interest in these things, but um, I was saying that, the Kumbh Mela, you have all kinds of extraordinary yogis that show up, and Srila Prabhupada warned us to be very careful in our dealings with the people that we encounter there, because you won't know who you're dealing with. You won't be able to understand who a particular personality is, or just by looking at them, they will look quite ordinary. He told us stories of individuals who appear to be 25 years old, but they're actually hundreds of years old and have been coming to the Mela for a very long time, and generations of people remember them, coming again and again for generations, hundreds of years. So, someone's father knew him, and his father's father knew him, and his great-grandfather knew him, and so on. Everyone remembers this fellow, but he never ages. He still looks like he's 25. But it's no use to any of this if you're not remembering Krishna. Without engagement in devotional service, it's all a waste of time. You can expend an incredible amount of time and energy trying to cultivate these cities, but to what avail? It just becomes a distraction from our real business. So Srila Prabhupada made that very clear. Our only interest is somehow or other to render service to Krishna. Thank you again for your class, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for that wonderful enrichment of pastimes of Prabhupada and what you witnessed, personal accounts in Kumbh Mela and other parts of India. Yes, so as Prabhupada, as Thakur Prabhu reiterated, and I will reiterate again, yes, mysticism, power, perfection is our natural birthright in devotional service. So let's just hold on to chanting. The perfection is, we already have it, and we've been given it by another devotee, and that is this ability to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And through this perfection, we are in touch with Yogeshwara himself, the master of all yoga cities. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Pramanande, Haribol.